Every time you open a book, a quiet anatomical miracle occurs inside your head. Your vocal cords make microscopic, imperceptible movements, tensing as if to speak, though your lips remain closed. Deep within your temporal lobe, your auditory cortex begins to fire, processing sounds that do not exist in the room. You are not merely processing data. You are experiencing subvocalization, the physiological process where your brain hijacks your own body to reconstruct the exact phonetic breath of someone who might have died 3,000 years ago. To read is to let a stranger use your living brain as their personal voice box. For centuries, we believed some ghosts were permanently silenced. In the dense, humid lowlands of the Yucatan Peninsula, the towering stone stelae of the ancient Maya stood as silent sentinels. Their surfaces were carved with intricate, haunting glyphs. Human profiles emerging from jaguar pelts, severed hands grasping jade beads, and strange geometric knots. To the Europeans who stumbled upon these ruins, the stones were beautiful, but mute. By the mid-20th century, the leading authority on the Maya was a British archaeologist named Sir Eric Thompson. Thompson was a man of immense certainty. He declared that the glyphs were not a written language at all. He argued they were purely mathematical and mystical symbols, a cosmic calendar created by a peaceful priestly elite who lived only for time, astronomy, and the gods. The Maya, in Thompson's view, did not write down human history because they did not care about the messy, violent affairs of mortal men. They were a civilization of silent philosophers, and their symbols were an abstract code that could never be read aloud. But in 1945, amid the smoking ruins of Berlin, a young Soviet soldier named Yuri Knorozov climbed into the burning remains of the Prussian State Library. The air was thick with the smell of wet plaster and charred paper. Knorozov was not a conventional soldier. He was a linguist, thin and quiet, with dark, intense eyes that seemed to look through stone. From the flames, he rescued a single volume. It was a rare, high-quality reproduction of the 3 surviving Maya codices, the precious folding books that had escaped the fires of the Spanish Inquisition. Knorozov returned to Leningrad, a city still starving and haunted by its own recent siege. He lived in a room so narrow that his desk touched both walls, sharing his meager rations with a domestic cat named Asya. While the Western world celebrated Thompson's theory that the glyphs were non-linguistic symbols, Knorozov sat in the damp cold of his study, staring at the rescued pages. He had never seen a tropical rainforest, and he would not be permitted to leave the Soviet Union for decades. But he had something Thompson did not: a deep, intuitive understanding of how human beings speak. Knorozov began his work with a manuscript written in 1566 by Diego de Landa, a Spanish bishop who had ordered the mass burning of Mayan books, but who had also, ironically, recorded a crude Mayan alphabet. Landa had asked a native informant to translate the Spanish alphabet into Mayan glyphs. For centuries, researchers had tried to use this alphabet to decode the monuments, and all of them had failed, declaring Landa's work a fabrication. Knorozov realized the mistake was not Landa's, nor his informants. The mistake belonged to the modern scholars who assumed the Maya wrote in letters. Knorozov reasoned that when Landa asked his informant for the Mayan equivalent of the Spanish letter B, the informant did not hear a single letter. He heard the Spanish pronunciation of the letter, which is be. The informant then drew the glyph for the Mayan word be, which means road or journey. This was the key that unlocked the silence. The glyphs were not symbols for abstract cosmic ideas, nor were they letters. They were syllables. They were phonograms, representing the actual physical sounds of a human voice. In 1952, Knorozov published his findings. He showed that by combining the phonetic syllables, he could read the glyphs out loud in the classic Mayan language. He pointed to a glyph depicting a turkey cock, which the Maya called kuts, and a glyph for fire, which they called kak. By linking these phonetic components, the silent stones suddenly began to speak. In the West, Sir Eric Thompson used his immense institutional power to crush Knorozov's theory, dismissing it as communist propaganda. For 20 years, Thompson kept the academic world locked in silence, insisting that the Maya were silent mystics. But Knorozov's phonetics were too precise to be ignored. When younger archaeologists finally took Knorozov's phonetic key to the ruins in Mexico and Guatemala, the stones did not just speak, they screamed. The peaceful, silent astronomers of Thompson's imagination vanished. In their place emerged a vivid, turbulent world of real human beings. The glyphs did not record abstract calendar cycles. They recorded history. They told of King Pakal of Palenque, who inherited the throne at 12 years old and died in his 80s with crippling arthritis. They recorded the military triumphs of Shield Jaguar, the political alliances of Lady Wak Chanil Ajah, the exact dates of bloody battles, the names of local artists, and even the agonizing dental pain of royal scribes. By translating the phonetic sounds, we were no longer looking at carvings. We were listening to people. We could hear a scribe from the year 750, sitting in a limestone palace, dipping a brush in black ink, and writing down his own name with the quiet hope that someone, someday, would pronounce it. This is the quiet turn of the library. We tend to view reading as an intellectual exercise, a solitary act of gathering information from a page. But it is actually a physical act of resurrection. When Knorozov reconstructed the phonetic sounds of the Maya, he did not just solve a cold historical riddle. He built a bridge of breath. Those thousands of minds lined up on bookshelves are not truly gone, nor are they frozen. They are simply waiting in a state of suspended animation. They have encoded their voices into physical patterns, waiting for a living nervous system to come along and decode them. When you pick up a book, you are agreeing to a temporary possession. For the duration of the page, you lend your eyes, your nerves, your auditory cortex, and your very breath to someone who has been dust for centuries. They whisper, and you live.